Mr. Speaker, the forest industry is one of Alberta's strongest industries and could lead the province in diversification along with the agricultural industry. But as what happened in the energy industry, uncertainty will drive investment out of the province. Uncertainty in timber supply and uncertainty in the market because of the softwood lumber agreement has ended. To the Minister, given the government is planning on increasing the cut block retention from 5% to 10%, how will the government assure certainty in the forest company's timber supply?
Good question.
Minister of Economic Development and Trade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I will thank the member for the question. Our government very much supports the forestry sector here in Alberta, Mr. Speaker. In fact, as we speak, the Minister of Agriculture and Forestry is in Asia with a number of forestry and agricultural companies looking at opportunities to increase our exports and our capacity to export to other markets, Mr. Speaker. I look forward to talking a little bit about the state of the softwood lumber agreement in the next response.
For a supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that the forest industry is dependent upon their timber allocations to maintain strong businesses, and given that they operate on an expected size of timber allocation, to the Minister, with your latest plan to restore caribou habitat in Little Smoky and Alapech, will your protection plans for caribou rangelands result in decreased timber supply and uncertainty for Alberta's forest industry?
Minister of Environment and Parks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the honourable member for the question. Certainly, Alberta must move forward with a range plan by October 2017, and so that's why we're taking the time to get it right, Mr. Speaker. We have put forward a draft, and I emphasize that word draft. We are going to be speaking further once we are out of the duties of this House to go and speak to communities about that draft, Mr. Speaker, but the fact of the matter remains that if we do not have a range plan filed by October of next year, one will be imposed on us by the federal government, and that is simply not a situation that is good for Alberta.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Second supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Not much certainty in the first two questions. Given the predicament that mountain pine beetle is destroying the same timber supplies as the lichen that caribou eats, and given that both these could decrease timber supply, to the Minister, what are you doing to make sure that your healthy pine strategy does not affect timber supply certainty for Alberta's forest producers?
Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We certainly know that mountain pine beetles remain a grave threat to the health of Alberta forests. In 2015-16, our government spent $35 million to combat the mountain pine beetle, and we are working to minimize the spread of beetles north and south along the eastern slopes and to prevent beetles from spreading further east in the boreal forest. The spread of the mountain pine beetle has not been as significant as we were anticipating, and this is thanks to the weather and the good work done by the ministry. We will continue to push the federal government for assistance in fighting mountain pine beetle in the Hinton area. Mr. Speaker, we understand this concern. We're listening to producers, and we
Thank you.